Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for another episode of Motivations? I know I am. I'm still currently getting everything set up. However, I am very excited. So I figured, why not? Why not start with a little bit of a debrief about who Charles Infurna really is. Let's go is right. However, there is still one more thing that we need to talk about. Why the hell is Zoom being difficult? I can just join from my browser? Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. Let's go. Okay. So really quick, Charles Infurna, the doc. He is an old pal of mine, my track and field coach. He's kind of gone. He's been through. He's been through a lot. Very busy man. He has been my track and field coach since 2015? Yeah, that sounds right. 2015. And because of that, we've worked a lot together. And in turn of helping me with track, he also has started a family in that process. He was actively getting his doctorate and working full time. A very busy guy. Very busy guy. But he had everything kind of compartmentalized, and he played it off really well. Like, he had it all kind of figured out. He had a system, and the system really worked for him. So I am excited to talk to him about what really motivates him to continue doing what he does, and to work with people and try and get them to also figure out what motivates them. So, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Charles Infurna. Coach! Oh, I can't hear you. Hold on.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. It's been a while. It's
Been since let's see, we had dinner or lunch at Court Eatery, I think, in Webster, right?
Yeah.
So you moved back home?
Yup. Oh man. So how's everything going with you? Everything good?
It's not bad. It's crazy as usual, but we're
Yeah.
getting by. You have to excuse my setup in the basement here. It's
Oh.
all we got pipe. It's a horrible.
Yeah, it looks like it's coming down a little bit, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah, there's some wires over my right shoulder. I got a whole bunch of wrestling magazines and stuff. Anyway, so how have you been? How are things downstate?
Everything's good. Everything's good. I started work and I got a new job and doing that, and now I'm streaming on YouTube and doing kind of doing a
Is
little bit of
YouTube?
everything.
I gotta like source out my stuff for you, man, because like you play video games and like it's split screen and like I don't my
It's interesting.
my production value is 0. I hit record
And then
and
you
I
go.
post it and I go, but like what I don't know, like if I have a really cool intro or like 5 more people are gonna watch for another 20 seconds, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that, I guess.
Oh
But
yeah, we could definitely talk
it's
about that.
it's
But yeah, for the people that are watching and who don't know, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself, Coach?
we're live right now.
Oh, we're live right now.
This is so awesome. Well, I guess I apologize for everybody who's watching live. So we're recording this. I'm in my basement, and so my name's Charles Infurna. I am. Let's see. I don't know. I wear a million hats, I guess. One of the hats was Tyler's coach at Nazareth College from the 2015-16 season through 18-19, or no, sorry, 17-18 when you graduated. So your last 3 years of coaching, or last 3 years of college.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. By trade, I'm an educator. I graduated from SUNY Fredonia in 2004 with my bachelor's, and I like this so much I stayed there, and I earned a master's degree and an admin degree. So I was enrolled in college for the better part of 4, 6, 7 years. So I earned 3 degrees. Taught down there in Fredonia, and then transitioned to administration. And while I was teaching, I was asked to start coaching. So I graduated in 04, and our throwing coach left, and they asked me if I wanted to be a graduate assistant and stay on. And it was never an intention to coach. And if I wouldn't have, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Right.
And I started coaching my teammates, which was an interesting experience to say the least. I was 22 coaching my 21 and 22-year-old teammates, or athletes rather. So I learned a lot over those first few seasons of what not to do, and I tried to incorporate those strategies when I coached you.
I think it worked.
I think so. I mean, you graduated. That was quite a
That was an adventure.
It was that, especially from it was actually like right around now, right? Like 4 years ago, probably within the last couple of weeks, where we had that conversation about, hey, by the way, I don't know if I'm going to graduate because I'm short credits, and
Yeah.
still to this day though, for as much time I've spent in academia, they really should take better care of the students.
Yeah.
Like, I say that wholeheartedly. Like, there's no way that somebody should get to their spring semester of their senior year, ready to graduate, and get an email from somebody that they never heard from before and say, hey, by the way, you are short 3 6 credit hours, so you can't graduate. You
Yep.
can walk, but we're not going to give you that very expensive piece of paper.
Yep. I had to spend more money on CLEP exams to get those credits.
It's horrible. Like,
Uh-huh.
how, I don't know how that stuff falls through the cracks. Like, it's not like Naz was impoverished to not have,
Right.
academic advisors. It happened to you. It happened to Lewis, his freshman year also. Like,
Yep.
it just, some things it just boggles my mind. Even but it Fredonia too. Like I had somebody. Can I? I don't know if she'll ever watch it. Dr. Litwicki. I had basically had the same thing happen to me. Like, oh, by the
Mhm.
way, this secondary ed isn't going to work out. You need to transition to elementary ed. So that was 3 semesters in. So fortunately, I had enough time to still meet the prerequisites and things. But
Right. It's it,
so
it's challenging, and I think that's something too. Is like a lot of my time spent was mostly just trying to pick up the pieces spring semester senior year of like, oh, Jesus, how do I do this? Dear God, how do I recover from that? Um,
Mhm.
and it was a distracting spring, to say the least. But I think I made it through, and I think a lot of people. I have an experience that I think a lot of people are probably happy that they don't have that of having to deal with that
Yeah.
situation. But and I know that I guess to circle back to your start with Fredonia, is that so like
Yeah.
what made you want to say yes to coaching at Fredonia, only a year above people that you were just recently teammates with?
So the first time I said no.
Okay.
So I graduated in May of '04. I was already accepted to go to grad school there in curriculum and instruction. So I knew that before I graduated. So when I came back to campus in August, I got a call from the athletic director, who to this day we kind of have a strained relationship. It was just kind of rubbed me the wrong way my senior year for opportunities and things.
Hmm.
So he called. I was working. So let's see here. So I was teaching at BOCES in Fredonia, Erie 2 BOCES. I was enrolled in grad school full time, and I had a side gig working in the fitness center on campus in the evenings. So he called in August and said, Coach Barr left. We don't have a throwing coach. Are you interested? And I was part of the graduate assistant program through the School of Education, which was awesome to help pay for my grad degree.
Hmm.
I can never thank them enough for that.
Right.
But he said, I said, no, I'm not really interested. So then in November, he called back and said, are you sure? Like, do you want to? It was going to be volunteer for that first year, but then with the opportunity, the potential to be paid a stipend the following year. So that was the '04-'05 season. So I said, sure. So that semester I was coaching Jen Galvin, who was my teammate, Meredith Schichtel. She was my teammate also from that '03-'04 season when I was a senior.
Hmm.
Bob Larson was a freshman, and Tim Miller, who had transferred from Canisius College. So he and I we were the same age. So I was 22 coaching him and my former teammates. So it just happened by chance, I guess. Like
Hmm.
it never was. Yeah, I never really had any intention to coach. Like I mean, I coach my kids now in like youth sports, but they're 6.
Right.
Like that's easy, relatively easy compared to what coaching young adults. But yeah, that's really how it happened. Like there was no I graduated. My throwing career I thought was pretty much done. So um, that was it.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
interesting to be like, yep, I was just doing what I was told and took a
right.
chance, and here we are. I think that is something that a lot of people kind of don't really take an opportunity to do, is really like take a chance on things,
Hmm.
and take that opportunity to really step out of their comfort zone and do something that they're uncomfortable with.
Hmm.
I mean, God, even just like coming to Naz was interesting for me because I came
Hmm.
on the campus Easter day of 2014, a couple of
Yep,
days, like a couple of
2014.
weeks before I had to put a deposit in
Hmm.
to a college, and it was dead empty. All the doors were locked
Hmm.
everywhere. I walked around. I went to the soccer fields. I went to the throwing area, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, this could do." And I just threw my
Hmm.
deposit in, and didn't even have the
Right.
major that I went for other like schools, and
Hmm.
um, I loved it. I fell in love with that. I wish that my freshman year of throwing went better, but a concussion sent me back. But
Hmm.
it works out all in the end, and that's something that I think a lot of people have trouble with is kind of stepping out of their comfort zone and just kind of risking it a little bit. Um,
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. I was just gonna ramble. There was nothing more that I was gonna say after that.
No, I think that's so important. Like, I'm gonna turn 40 in a couple weeks, and I think back to the time when I was your age. So you're what, 25, 26,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yep. So I think back to that time of like wasted. I don't know if wasted is the right word. So I I thought I was going to continue throwing like post collegiately,
Hmm.
and I had these grandiose plans that I thought I was going to qualify for the Olympic trials in 2008 in the hammer. Now, realistically, there was no chance that that was probably going to happen. I was a
Hmm.
50-meter thrower in college, so it was about 163 feet. The qualifier for the Olympic trials at that time, I think it was like 70 meters. So basically, I had to add 33% to my best throw,
Hmm.
and it just wasn't. I tried really hard. I boosted my personal best, so I ended up throwing over 60 meters. So I put 10 meters on in those 4 years from when I graduated.
Wow.
But looking back, like I feel like more could have happened
Hmm.
because I look at what I do now. So we have four little people in our house, my wife and I. So we have an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a newborn. And I'm able to train more, and I'm more focused and more cognizant of what I'm doing at 40 than when I was 24, 25. And
Right.
it's just interesting because I was still teaching and grad school, and it just seems as though I didn't do enough, or I could have done so much more. And there was no like risk. Like it's my background growing up, my parents were immigrants, so they came to the states. See, my dad came in '75, and my mom came when she was a kid in 1964.
Wow.
And so my mom graduated from school here. Um, my dad, he came after he got out of the army, so going to college was a non-negotiable. Like that was going to happen at our house. But then after the graduation, it was expected that okay, you graduated, you have the degree, and you're going to get a job, and like that's it. And I think um, for those that graduate now, I would encourage to pursue whatever it is you want to do. And if you think you're done, keep going another 2 or 3 years, because once you get to a certain age and you have certain responsibilities, it makes it much more difficult or pretty much non-existent to be able to do that. So, and I'm not saying it from the point of like regrets or anything, but just as putting my coaching hat on.
Hmm.
Anybody who graduates, and you listen to this spiel 5 years ago almost, like continue. You want to do the Highland, like the strongman
Yep.
competition, like continue doing that, like pursue what you want, because there comes a point where it's not as realistic, or you're not as able to do that. So um, any of the kids that I coached post collegiately, there was Jen at Fredonia, who was my teammate. She threw at Ashland after as a
Hmm.
grad student, and she qualified for a couple of indoor national championships. Julia at Fredonia, tried to get her to train for the 2012 Olympic trials because she was at that tier.
Hmm.
Lewis, your teammate,
Yep.
right? He tried for a couple. I was gonna say we tried. He tried for a few years,
Yep.
and now is kind of settling down in North Carolina. It's it's tough because kids. I call you. You were my kid. You're still my kid. Make these decisions on going to college without really understanding to a certain degree what's going to happen after the fact, right? You have these gimmicks, these loans you have to pay back.
Yep.
If you change your major, you have to stay. Like just working in a high school now and talking to kids, like just not quite as prepared or equipped for not the rigors of college. Like the
Hmm.
academic part really isn't that difficult. I think it's the
Right.
after part, but
I think that's super interesting too. I mean,
Mm,
something that you have taught me that a lot of my other coaches and even some of my teachers haven't really
mm,
taught me is the mental aspect that goes into doing what you want to do, and
mhm,
really finding out. I mean, at the end of the day, if I really think about it, right, I think um doing this and talking about with people from multiple different fields of hobbies and
mm,
work that they're really passionate about, I think that all on its own kind of stems from the things that you've taught me in college, where I had to look deeper and I had to like figure
mm,
out why I'm doing this. Why do I want to
mhm.
throw? Why do I want to go to
Right.
college? What do I want to do after? And it's questions like that that I think a lot of people kind of miss out on an opportunity to really understand themselves.
Mhm,
Um, so I guess I mean, looking back at it, it was all kind of a blur in the most positive way possible. But like,
mhm.
how do you get students that are busy just waking up and just doing life and trying to
Right.
figure out who they are as people? How do you get them to think like that? Like, do you have like a process that you go through?
I I mean, it's trial and error, I guess, depending on the individual. So
Mhm.
for you, for example, starting to work with you with your sophomore year, you I mean, I think you had a great freshman season. Like you threw relatively far considering um like whatever the expectations were. So
Mhm.
starting there was expectations of trying to manifest where do you want to go, right?
Mhm.
Is even with my college kids at Alfred State now
Right.
and the high school kids that I work with. So where do you want to go? And then okay, so this is I kind of shared it on Instagram the other day, like the expectations reality. So let's say you want to throw X distance, or you want to be a national champion, or you want to do whatever, right? So there's certain steps that you need to take along the way. So kind of wrapping your mind around what you want to accomplish, and then why it's important, like you just mentioned. And I don't think a lot of athletes or even just individuals like think about that, like
Mhm.
why do I want to accomplish this. So a couple years ago I decided that I wanted to try triathlon, and that was important to me because it was something new. It was out of my comfort zone. I weighed like 290 pounds. I didn't have a bike. I hadn't swam since I was a kid. uh, and it was like, I always wanted to try it. It's on like my bucket list,
Mhm.
that I have a notebook of things that I wanted to do, is, to compete at Kona. So it's the Hawaiian or the World Championships for triathlon.
Okay.
So, okay, so what do you have to do? So you have to swim, you have to bike, and then you have to run. So I wasn't doing any of that. So yeah, I needed to start doing it. So it was important to me. One, I needed to get in better shape for my kids. So this was 4 years ago now. So they were much younger, but I
Mhm.
wanted to show them that dad could do things that made him feel uncomfortable. So in the college setting or even in the high school setting, why is throwing 80, I don't know, 100 feet really really important to you? And when you come up with that why or that purpose, it makes, I believe, the steps so much easier after the fact. You have to go to the gym, you have to go to the weight room, you have to try and get at least 6 7 8 hours of sleep at night, you have to take care of your nutrition, your rest, your recovery, and then all these little other steps or concepts just kind of fall into place. But if it's not as important to you, like I have some college kids now that really the nightlife is non-existent at Alfred,
Mhm.
but they, some are still academically ineligible, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're spending all this money, you got into a relatively difficult major, chemical engineering, is one popular one that we have,
Oh wow.
and you have like a point 0.9 GPA. Like, you got into the program. So when I skipped class at Fredonia, we were playing Wrestle Zone on N64 or
Right.
GoldenEye. Like, it wasn't.
Oh, I think I might have lost you, coach. Chat, we are going to figure out how to get him back. If I can if I can even get him back. Because it looks like stop incoming. Is that good? Should I? Oh, my posture's terrible. Oh, hey, me. What are you doing? God, you're sexy. Let me shoot. Oh, there we go. Welcome back.
Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully it wasn't the
I think I lost you again. I mean, honestly, guys, this is a. I mean, it's a good picture of him, right? While we're trying to figure this out, I just want to let you guys know, at the end of the day, like he is a large part of why I'm doing what I'm doing. This kind of series kind of kicked off with him, uh, teaching me a little bit more about how I needed to understand myself. Oh my god, oh I would make out with you so hard. Wow, wow, so handsome. Uh, but anyways, guys, if you enjoy this stuff, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it. And also, !guest will bring up some links that Dr. Infurna has available to learn more about him or to hear more from him. And he asked some really interesting questions. Some very, very interesting questions. Um, but anyway, let's keep talking. All right, I think you're back.
I can see and hear you.
Okay. Okay.
So can you am I good or what?
Yeah, I think you're
No?
good. I think you're good now. You were frozen last time, but you're good now.
All right. It was because I was rambling on. So getting kids to do, I guess, what they want to do, right? So
yeah.
You at this level, like Division 3, and it's interesting. I shared something earlier about like recruiting and getting athletes on campus and things like that. At this level, and you could speak to it probably more so because it's fresher to you. But we as coaches, like,
Mhm.
we can't make our kids do anything really, right? Like, you're non-scholarship, so you come out for the team, it's because you want to be there, right? So you enjoy the sport, maybe you enjoy your coaches, you enjoy the camaraderie of being with other like-minded individuals,
Right.
and then you really just got to try and tease it out for everybody. So fortunately, you fell into it at a perfect time. Like, it couldn't have worked out any better, between you, Brandon, and Lewis. Like, the three of you were probably the best three, like, teammates that I've ever coached ever. And I don't know if we'll have, or I'll have, another experience like that as a coach. But it worked really nice because Lewis and Brandon were seniors, so you kind of got like swept into it.
Mhm.
Where if there's just a group of individuals, and it's kind of difficult to see what the possibility is if there's nobody there. So like last year at Alfred State, I had all freshmen and one athlete who was a junior who didn't really participate anything in the fall. So it was COVID, so it was kind of discombobulated. We didn't have any meets until the outdoor season started. So our first competition was in the beginning of April.
Oh wow.
And and it took a while to tease out like what people wanted to do. And there was a lot of aside conversations and a lot of, academic issues, which I can't really help too much with that, like
Right.
especially in chemical engineering and mechanical and all these things. Like I can't take those tests for you, right? I'm just
Right.
kidding. I wouldn't do that anyway. Um, but if the grades aren't high enough, you're going to be ineligible anyway, so you won't be able to compete. So it's why I wouldn't encourage somebody to just go to school just to throw at that level. Now you're talking D2, D1, where it's a scholarship, where you have an opportunity to do something after the fact. That's
Right.
different, I think. But at this level, you really got to get kids to understand why doing something is really important to them. Like,
Mhm.
why do you want to be an education major? Why do you want to be a communications major? Why do you want to be whatever major? Um, and then the track or soccer or baseball or basketball, whatever, just kind of falls into it a little bit. But track, I think, is the coolest sport because most of what's going to happen, positive or negative, is on the individual. So if you play basketball, you play soccer, any of these team focused sports, if you have like a bad day or you have an off shooting night or whatever, your teammates can still carry you along. In track, swimming, golf, tennis, these more individualized sports, there really isn't a safety net. So when they say Tyler's up and you walk into the circle, there's nothing I can do anymore.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to say
It
anything to
showed
you walking
sometimes.
in. Right. Like, it's true. It's true. But like, there's nothing we can do. Like
Yeah.
you hope that you helped your student, your athlete, make the best decision possible leading up to that moment. And then you have this inside conversation like we did a few times at Houghton, where you just kind of like try and bring it back to, okay, so we wanted to throw this far, and this not, I mean you like, I
Yeah.
mean you as in like individuals, right? Like the
Right.
youths, um, is okay. You wanted to throw 50 feet in a weight this week, but you didn't eat lunch all week. You stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, not necessarily doing homework. So there has to be a little bit of accountability. So the other thing besides understanding the purpose is I strongly encourage kids to keep journals. I know I gave you a bunch of marble notebooks too, because then that's where an accountability piece comes in. Because I've had conversations with athletes where it's like, coach, you didn't help me, not it was my fault. I mean, there's some responsibility there, of course, but if the athlete skips practice or they just, not interested, they don't go to the gym, they don't do any of the other stuff, it makes the conversation a lot easier to have.
Mhm.
But yeah, you really just gotta you gotta communicate with your kids. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You have to figure out what they're about, what their interests are, like I did. And we you sat in a couple of those recruiting meetings where I basically tell parents that I treat your child like they're in preschool. Greet them at the door, ask them how their day was, how's school, how's everything else in life going besides throwing.
Mhm.
And that's really where you get to know somebody. And if you start establishing that relationship where there's a little bit of mutual trust and respect, that's going to go a long way, as opposed to me just trying to feed you like this is a program for today.
Right.
Or if I never ask you a conversation about or ask you anything about your anything life, it's like, okay, this coach doesn't care about me, so I'm not going to put in as much effort.
Mhm.
Um, but
And I think that
yeah,
incentivizes me too. At least with me,
mhm,
when you were doing that kind of like thing where you would ask me how my
mhm,
day's going, or you would ask me, how life outside of track, and I think I would be pretty honest with you. I mean, I told you about my mom when she was sick, and I told you about classes that weren't doing too well, or maybe I
mhm,
didn't. I don't really remember about that part, but I do remember,
mhm,
there was conversations that we've
yeah,
had, and I think that
mhm,
incentivized me to do better. I think because in my position, I was like, okay, we're growing on more of a personal level as well, and that makes me want
mhm,
to perform better so that you can feel like you've also accomplished something on top of just meeting me as a person.
mhm.
So
Yeah. I mean,
that's something.
no, I mean, we definitely had a lot of those conversations, and I specifically remember. the one that we had at Houghton after E8s before regionals, the one with your class or your classes, and you pulled it up on your phone. I don't know if you remember, but that was like the cool thing about that season was it was just you and I,
Yeah.
and I learned more about myself and coaching in that season that I think I've had learned in every other season that I've coached, because that's it. So you were stuck with me, and more or less, I mean, I was stuck with you too, right? So eventually you do get to a point where you obviously want to make it work for your athlete,
Mhm.
and hopefully there isn't a lot on the other end of, if the performance isn't there, that it's the athletes feel bad. Like I had a couple kids once, not in NAS, say that they apologized for not performing well, and I was like, what do you like? It doesn't hurt my feelings. Like if athletes don't throw far or whatever their expectation is of throwing far, like it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt my feelings. It just means that I didn't communicate something that week, or there was something else happening that I wasn't aware of, that we could have tried to help out a little bit more. Like if you never would have shared about your classes, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive weeks in a row that it was just we were off the track, if you will, then I wouldn't. It could have turned into something worse, where, hey Tyler, why aren't you focused? Why aren't you paying attention? Like,
Yeah.
why are you skipping all of a sudden? Where you told me the first day, and we pulled up your transcript right there, and it was, I mean, it's just mind, like I said, mind boggling. But
Yeah. You don't have to work better than that anymore, though. Thank God.
so how many people are like actually watching this? Like 10,
Uh,
20, 30? We got
I mean,
4.
so far we got 5.
That's amazing. That's how many people watch my videos that I post on YouTube too. So
Yeah, it's so
or
interesting.
Instagram, if you will.
It's so interesting.
But like I never would have thought that this, like you playing video, like the Twitch, and like, right, Twitch,
Yeah,
right?
Twitch. Yep.
Twitch, thanks. That's how old I am. That you would be like pursuing this and having this YouTube channel, and I mean, it's really interesting. Like, even you spend so much time with someone, and then they become young adults like you are, and you're responsible and have other things going on, that you do this. I don't know, it's just interesting to me. Like, I
Uh,
wish I knew how to do it, to be honest.
it is so time consuming. I
That's why I just hit record, and that's it, and I post it. If somebody,
I I've gotten a lot of inspiration from other live streamers that I've seen, and
sure.
I to be honest, I think a lot of it too is because I used to brag a lot to a bunch of people that my most endorsed skill on LinkedIn is public speaking.
Mhm.
So I was like, what if I can incorporate that? And also, I think I'm funny sometimes, so why don't I incorporate that
You
into
are
live
right,
streaming? And
right.
I'm not good at video games, but I think it's
Mhm.
fun to put myself out here in an uncomfortable situation where people will come in that I may or may not know, that are like, "Hey,
Mhm.
what's up?" And I'm like, "I
Right,
don't know you. What's up?
right.
Come watch me do something." It's
Mhm.
I don't to be honest, I don't really know what made me start it. I think it was
Mhm.
I think it was like a correlation of a lot of things, or
Mhm.
accumulation of a lot. I don't know. But I enjoy it. I mean, it takes up most of my days, but it's something that I can't get away from. And I think doing stuff like this, where I get to talk to a bunch of people who are interested in
Mhm.
things that they do, and who, especially like in fields or in parts of their life where I'm like, how do you do that? Like, even so, something to follow up with that with you on is like, you came back. I know that you coached at NAS, and then you left and you weren't there my freshman year, and then you came back my sophomore year, and then
Mhm.
you were there until you left again. What, after I graduated? I don't know, sometime.
The
And
18-19 season. Yep,
okay,
that was my last one. Yep.
okay. I mean, and even within that time, I mean, you were coaching,
Mhm.
you were creating a family, you were working full time, and you were
Yeah.
you were working towards your doctorate.
Yeah.
That's St. John
Yeah.
Fisher.
Yeah.
How did you balance all of that? Like I get this is something fun too, right? Is I love I'm so glad that you were like open to talk to me because I have questions that I wish I asked when I was, at
Mhm.
practices and stuff, and one of them is
Sure.
just how do you do that? How can you put on so many hats and keep yourself organized and motivated to continue down each and every path?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, at that stage, so I came back, so the 15-16 season, so that was your sophomore year.
Mhm.
So I was off that 14 15 season. So my wife and I, we had one little guy, and then we wanted to have more, and coaching just it took up, too much of that extra time. And I wish I could, even back then and now, like figure out a way to like get everything in the time allotted, but I haven't figured that part out yet now. um, but then, I mean, really, it's a lot of credit to her. So I was working on my doctorate at Fisher, so that was the second year, so it's an accelerated program. So we had class on Fridays and Saturdays. So unfortunately, I missed half of the meets because I couldn't go because I was in class,
Mhm.
and I was working full time at the U of R. And we were expecting so we had our second in May of that year, or no, I'm sorry, May before, May of 15.
Mhm.
So first year of doc work, had a newborn, and then came back to coaching. And I mean, really, it's a lot of it is it's my wife. She really did everything that year when I was, came back and started coaching you guys.
Mhm.
As far as like maintaining some semblance of law and order at home. Um, but I mean, when you want to do something and you're really interested in it, and I think I was okay at coaching before then. It's kind of, I mean, I don't want to say a hobby, but it's, I don't know, people, I think, gravitate to things that they're good at or that they've had success at. So I had some success at Fredonia. I reached out to James Goss before you got there. They didn't have a throwing coach. I mean, Tim Jajos was kind of their throwing coach and strength and conditioning coach.
Mhm.
Um, just because it's something that I enjoy doing, and engaging with people like yourself and trying to help them, throw far. In that case, and graduate is really important too. That's something I pride on. I think I've only had two kids that I started with that didn't end up graduating um, on time. Actually, maybe at all. I don't know. That's my fault. Um, I do take some responsibility for that, I guess. But um, I don't know. I guess time management sounds so cliche because I don't know. Like when I was 10 years younger, I feel like I wasted a lot of time and I was actually doing more things. So
Mhm.
coaching, trying to compete, teaching, and doing all that stuff. So now it's extremely cumbersome. So I still teach and work and try and coach when I can. And like the training portion of it, like when I was coaching you guys, that 15-16 season, well, at least that season, I competed in two powerlifting meets too. So in the garage, have a gym. It's 5 feet away from the kitchen, so there's really no excuse not to.
Right.
So the things that you want to do, you figure out how to do it. I wish there was something sexier, I think, to make it work, but you you really do it. You watch, like, I love watching the Olympics, and they have all these backstories about individuals and what they overcame, and their trials and tribulations and things. Um, in 2004, I remember there were two twins, Calvin and Alvin Harrison, that lived in their car for like a year in
Wow.
Santa Monica so they could train. So they didn't have, I don't know how they, took care of themselves. Once they started competing well, they earned, Nike sponsorship, and they ended up winning gold medals as part of the 4x4 relay. But like, they lived in their car for a year at the beach. Like,
That's crazy.
I mean, what I'm doing is nothing compared to that.
Mhm.
If I was that good when I was 24, would I have thought about it? Yep. but I wasn't. So to live in my car in, in Florida or something, with a zero chance of accomplishing my goal, uh, wasn't realistic.
Right.
So, well, right, like, let's be
Yeah.
honest, right? But like someone like Lewis, who's right on the cusp, even we talked the other day about, hey, 2024, like it take about 18 months. Maybe you can, we can try and get going again. Because I feel like I missed out on those like risks and those chances. Like I didn't really, take any. I graduated, went to grad school right away, got a teaching job right away, and did everything that I think my parents expected and wanted, because that's, that was how my brother and I, we were brought up.
Right.
So now at 40, there's really no, like, opportunity for as much risk, right? Especially with four little people at home. Like
Mhm.
you just, I wouldn't just quit my job and try and YouTube like you do,
Right. I
because
wouldn't
that
either.
wouldn't work. No, it wouldn't work. But yeah, I think you figure out what's most important, and you try and, you check the boxes. So with Fisher, it's 20, like 8 months. So you're on a track, you go to class, you do your work, you have a couple of important projects and presentations to give, you pass, like most of my peers did. And you just you find the time to get your work done. So, like, behind me is my bike trainer. So 3 or 4 nights a week, after the boys go down and we read, bedtime stories and cuddle, I'll ride for an hour and a half, 2 hours, because it's easier for me to do it in the evening than to try and get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get a session in and then get them ready for school, whatever. So
Mhm.
you just figure out what works best for you. So, like, after this conversation, it'll probably be bedtime for me, because tomorrow, is one of my swim days. So the high school that I swim at is open from 6 to 7 in the morning. That's it.
Oh, geez.
So, you get up at 5, you drive over, you swim, come home, get the boys on the bus, go to school. I don't know if that answered your question, but I, I think really, if you write down on a piece of paper what you want to do, and I still have one, it's in one of the binders over here on the other side of those pipes. Everything that I wanted to accomplish. So
Mhm.
the first thing was earn my doctorate, coach national champion, coach All Americans, um, secure a job in academia, which I haven't really done yet as far as like teaching. So I'm still working towards that one.
Mhm.
And I know to try and earn a job at a college or be offered one, you have to, have scholarship and write papers and earn grants and things like that. So there's things along the way that you kind of need to do, and you do them, right? I mean, I
Right.
don't.
And then, like you
I
said,
wish
there's
it. I
nothing
mean, I wish
sexy
it was
about it.
cooler. A cooler explanation, or a cooler way to do it. But the- you really need to, like, want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
think at the end of the day,
you know,
it all kind of levels down to like just time management, right? And just like
right.
if
Mhm.
and that's the thing, if you are goal oriented and you have goals that you want to set to achieve, you have to find the time to do it. I talk to, Katie, my girlfriend, all the time, and
Mhm.
her and I chat, and she's like, You're sitting over here and you're trying to fit 27 hours into a 24-hour day."
Yep.
And so I lose hours here and there. So like I may not sleep as long one night, but then
Right.
like so, and I tell her, I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I have a problem where I tend to prioritize things incorrectly.
Mhm.
So like, I'll work, but then if my friend wants to go hang out, but I like
Mhm.
have like a stream set up that I have like want to do, or
Right.
I have
Right.
like a
No.
date
Right.
set up,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna go hang out. Like I'm gonna go hang out with my friends, and that's something that
Mhm.
I have to work on too. And I think that that's something that a lot of people need to kind of look at themselves in the mirror too, and be like, am I doing everything that I can do to maximize my
Mhm.
level of success and my level of uh achievements, essentially at the end of the day. If
Mhm.
I'm able to put a plaque on the back of my tombstone with all my achievements, is it going to fill
Right.
down from the top to the bottom, or is it just going to
Right.
go over the top? Like
Mhm.
I want to see people do really well and succeed like that as well. And I think that's something that a lot of people tend to kind of forget about. But I mean, with everything and with time management and everything, I mean, is there ever something that you weren't sure like if that you wanted to keep doing, and but you kind of like pushed through and did it anyway. And if so, I really want to know what it is and what made you overcome that.
Gosh, push through. I mean, I, I don't. This is gonna sound horrible, I guess, but I feel like that there were so I was the first person in my family to graduate from college.
Hmm.
So I think that there were expectations of just what to do. So the bachelor's at Fredonia, I mean, I think I shared this with you once. I got a letter saying that your grades weren't or my grades weren't too good, and if I
Hmm.
didn't get my GPA up, I would be asked to not return to the ed program.
Hmm.
This was the summer before, between my sophomore and junior year, so there wasn't a lot of time before student teaching. And I started thinking about, like, wow, like, my grandparents, as my mom, they came over when she was a kid. My grandfather worked two jobs. He worked at Kodak, and he worked at like a butcher shop, right? So he would work at Kodak from 11 at night to 7 in the morning as a custodian, and I go work in this pig butchery in Rochester from 7 to 3 in the afternoon. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I worked at Kodak over the summers. So I got that letter, and I had to go in that night. And because my grandparents, their house was like 10 minutes from there, I worked the night shift, so 7 at night to 7 in the morning. Anyway,
Hmm.
um, I'd go rest there, and it's like, he sacrificed so much, and I'm playing video games, and I'm going to throw it away. So that really kind of got me going on, okay, like, I can't mess this up, because there's nothing to fall back on. Like, it was 2003. Like, I couldn't change. I mean, I could change majors, but I don't. Business wasn't interesting to me. Journalism, like, I couldn't be a music, so I was kind of stuck. I don't know. Um, and then when I graduated, then it was like, okay, I'm going to try and accomplish everything that I can then. Like, so BOCES paid for my master's degree. They paid for my admin. Um, the most difficult part, I guess, so how we overcame it. So my wife and I, we were married in August of 2010. So that February of 2011, the school that I was working at said, "Hey, thanks, but no thanks." And so I was like, "Ooh, like, this sucks." Like, what are we gonna do? Like, we had a house in Fredonia. Like, I thought it was great. Like, I love Fredonia.
Hmm.
Um, so for 6 months, I had a professor at Fredonia called his name's Dr. Stoddard, Chuck Stoddard, and he'd always tell us to push paper, meaning you apply for jobs.
Hmm.
So part of my unemployment every week that I got went to mailing applications, job applications. And it wasn't until the very last job, I think, that I applied to in that August of 11, um, that I got an interview in Rochester, in the Rochester City School District.
Hmm.
And I drove up, and then after the interview, they called me as I was going back to my parents' house, and said, "Hey, we want to interview you again tomorrow." So those 6 months were kind of difficult because we didn't know what we were going to do. Like, I feel like I I don't know, had failed, I guess. Like, I got asked not to come back to a job that I thought I was doing, fairly well at in education.
Hmm.
And it made it kind of tough because my wife would go to work teaching, and I would just stay home. And we didn't have any kids. Let's see, in 2010, it was late 20s. Like, I feel like I should have been doing more, like,
Right.
anything. And I was sitting at home and applying to jobs, and thank goodness there was like Career Builder and things. And I think that's how I landed that job with the city.
Hmm.
I hit apply, and whatever. So that was difficult, but I mean, as far as, like, I don't know. I, I don't try, like, if I don't want to say if bad things happen, but I try and always look at the positive. So there's always like a silver lining someplace. And with that, it was moving back to Rochester because I got a job, and then my wife got a job like 2 weeks later. So we moved, um, lived with my parents because we had a house in Fredonia we couldn't afford to. So we weren't married a year yet, and we moved back in. We moved in with my parents, and
Mhm.
my dad's dad, my grandfather, was living there too. So it was freaking nuts. And we did that for a year. Um, and I don't know, we just got through it because I kept applying for other jobs. We spent a lot of time at Gold's Gym in Webster, so we weren't home because I didn't want to be that like 30-year-old guy that was married, that was living with his parents.
Right.
But you have. I mean, we didn't have to, but we couldn't have afforded anything else,
Mhm.
and that was kind of tough the first year. But I don't know. I guess like I'm so goal oriented that there's always something that I want to pursue or accomplish. Um, you just pick the next thing and go. So now this triathlon thing is really interesting to me, and I don't have the body type for it at all. I still weigh like 270 pounds, but I've the last two COVID summers I was registered for a half Ironman that were canceled.
Mhm.
Excuse me. So um, it's just you train for so long, and then they pull the plug on you a week before, and it's like, oh my goodness, what do you do? But that's not really a difficult problem or challenge, I guess. I don't
My
know.
my buddy
Right? Like,
my friend was doing he was getting ready to do an Ironman. Uh
mhm,
2 years, like right before COVID hit.
mhm,
It was what, 20 summer of 2018 he decided he wanted to do one. So he started putting the time in and working out twice a day before and after work, and
yep,
getting everything done, and getting ready to do his Ironman, and COVID hits, and he's like, "Well, now what? I've been training for over a
right,
year and I don't know what to do
mhm,
now." And so they were like, "Yeah, well, it's going to happen in 2021."
mhm,
So he was like, "Okay." So he got back
mhm.
to it, and he just kept training and training, and he's built like a tank now. I don't want, he looks like a bullet. He has the body frame of Zeus. I don't know, but he was getting through it, and I went to his Ironman, and
Mhm.
I was there because me being the person who doesn't do research on some things, like how long is an Ironman, I
Right.
asked him. Also, I didn't know that a marathon and an Ironman were two different things at the time. So I
Mhm.
texted him like a couple days before his Ironman, and I was like, "Hey, when's your marathon?" He's like, "Oh, it's
Right.
at 1." I was like, "1, perfect. I can make it. It's in Lake Placid. That's a
Yeah.
couple hours away. Not a big deal. I'll
Right.
go." So I get there, and my friends are like, "Where have you been?" I was like, "Where have I been?" And he
Mhm.
starts at 1. It's 11. I thought that I was early. They're like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
no, he started at like 7 a.m." I was like, "What do
Wow.
you mean?" I asked him what his marathon was, and they're like, "Yep, his marathon is starting at 1, but he still has
Right.
to bike, which he's doing now."
Mhm.
And in the
Mhm.
process of doing everything, I was there from 11 until about, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
And after the end of all of it, he looks at me. He's like, "That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I feel waterlogged. I don't know what happened. I blacked out half the way through." And
Yeah.
that turns out he goes to get an X-ray because his foot was bugging him, and he has a broken toe.
Mhm.
I was like, "Wait, so
Yeah.
I was like, would you break it?" He's like, "I think I broke it the night before the Ironman."
Mhm.
So he did a whole Ironman with a broken toe, and he finished. And I'm like, "That's so interesting." Like, if at that point, like if I wake up and my foot's like, if there's anything even remotely wrong with me, I'd be like, "Nope, scratch me. I'm not doing it today."
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to do that. So it's super interesting, and to see like to hear conversations with you and with him about training for that, and
Mhm.
doing things on the side of that with working, and you with your family, and trying to
Mhm.
get everything done that way. It motivates me in a way to get things done. Like, there's still things that I want to do, that I want to
Mhm.
get work done on, and I think that half the, again, I don't mean to keep coming back to it, but half the reason why I started the series is because of I felt like there was a lack of motivation that I had for a little bit with streaming, and with a lot of
Mhm.
things in my life. And so I figured I would talk to a bunch of different people to figure out, hey,
Mhm.
why do you do what you do? And it
Mhm.
would help me figure out why I want to do what I want to do and what I want to do. And I I love having conversations like this. I love talking, with you, with the people that I've talked to previously. It's super interesting to me. I love it. I absolutely love it. But so sorry, a little bit of a tangent. I
No, that's all right. No, that's good.
so what? I guess at the end of the day, like if you have any like, I guess this goes for me too. I remember my senior year, I told you that I wanted to coach, track,
Hmm.
either high school, collegiate, whatever.
Hmm.
Um,
I remember. Yeah.
for people like me, like what
Mhm.
what kind of advice would you have for someone like me trying to get into the idea of coaching, or into the idea of any of the hats that you wear? Like
Mhm.
what you would tell people?
So the coaching thing, I mean, I would ask to like reach out, so email a coach, or depending on where you and I were a few hours apart. Like if you ever wanted to come and like watch a practice and see what it's like behind the scenes, um, I would encourage you to reach out to a coach that maybe you've been following on social media, or is someone that not so much you want to emulate, but that you want to pick their brain about coaching and how they do things and why they do things and when. And send them an email or uh, call, which is what I did today for something else. I actually called the coach, besides just like emailing or trying to send a DM on Instagram,
Hmm.
and take a little initiative with whatever with whatever passion you want to do. And it's so cool now with social media. I mean, you send a DM and Twitter or Instagram, uh, and I think more often than not you're going to get a response back. um, I send a lot, like when the COVID hit, I tried interviewing a whole bunch of different interesting people too, as far as world class athletes for other research interests that I was interested in, or just practicing my speaking skills too.
Hmm.
And I got messages back from people that I never ever would have talked to otherwise. So I mean, I guess that's getting out of your comfort zone, is to reach out to somebody and say if you can maybe help out as far as like volunteer at first for coaching purposes. With anything else, I mean, it's the same. Like with triathlon, I didn't know much about it besides some of my friends from high school who are very competitive triathletes. So they, one friend in particular, Kristen, she's qualified for the 70.3, so the half world championships, half
Oh,
Ironman world championships. She has two little kids too. Her husband is a triathlete also. Um, and she has a full-time job and does all those different things. So I reached out to her and said, "Hey, Kristen, like I don't know what I'm doing." And the first race went horribly because I didn't do much of anything as far as training goes.
hmm.
So I learned a valuable lesson, and I've reached out to other coaches or individuals that have similar backgrounds as me, right? So um, dads and moms that have kids and jobs, and try and figure out how they do it, and pick people's brains. And usually the response was either really early in the morning or later at night. So I prefer the latter and train in the evening. But don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask. This is maybe another tangent, but when I graduated from Fredonia and I wanted to throw post collegiately, I got accepted to Ashland University for grad school, and I thought I was going to go. And I had um, dating a lady friend, and that was we were enrolled in Fredonia. We're not going anyplace, whatever. And but I reached out and said, can I compete, or can I train with your Ashland Elite, your post collegiate kids? The post collegiate kids were Olympians in '04, and I don't know if it was just stupidity or I just didn't know any better, or so naive that I asked. I was throwing 60% of what their distances were, and I wanted to train with them. And I got a polite response back from one of the athletes saying, "Oh, you need to have the A standard," and they were really nice with me about it.
Hmm.
I I asked, like, I mean, the worst thing, okay, they're going to say no, and then okay, but you never know unless you ask, right?
Right.
And then the same thing, I asked the same coach, Judd Logan, if I could go out and watch a practice with my college kids at Fredonia at the time.
Mhm.
And he responded back, sure. So we spent basically a whole day at Ashland watching two groups of college kids compete. And then, let's see, it was at the time it was two Olympians, which turned into four. But you just ask and you pursue respectfully. If he would have said no, then I wouldn't have asked to go out there, but it,
Mhm.
it turned into a relationship. So kind of like how you started the conversation with being a risk taker and getting out of your comfort zone, like you're asking different people from different backgrounds about their motivations and things. Maybe you've gotten a no or two, but it seems like you've gotten a lot of yeses, and the conversation has been very interesting. And I've learned a lot about what really gets people going. Because if you
Mhm.
don't have that fire and passion, like people can tell.
Yeah.
It's like by day, my day job is kind of like, I don't know how I fell into it. I was not a really good math student in school. I didn't take any math classes besides math for elementary education majors at Fredonia. That was it. No pre-calc, calc, anything. And now I'm a statistician by trade, and I run high level convoluted analyses in SPSS and SAS every day,
Mhm.
and try and answer questions for school districts in regards to why certain things are happening. And you try and predict or guess why certain students perform better than others. I, gosh, I don't even know how I fell into this nonsense, but it's really interesting to me because I like asking questions. And if with like the research that I conduct now, and the article that I just published or that was published, I reached out to high level Olympic level coaches, well, Olympic caliber coaches that had gone to multiple Olympic games with multiple athletes.
Mhm.
And it was a couple of emails. And then when they emailed back, then I would call their office at their college that they were coaching at. And hopefully they picked up the phone. Otherwise, I left a message, and it turned into, wow, I had 6 conversations with these coaches that I never would ever speak to, but because it was for research and I was genuinely interested, similar to our conversation, is how are they able to continue moving forward
Mhm.
year after year after year after year. And it's just really interesting because it's the same that we've talked about in regards to establishing relationships with athletes and having communication, effective communication skills, and helping them set goals and
Mhm.
then realize them. And it's when somebody else says it that's been to the Olympics 5 times with different athletes, and it's kind of like, wow, like it makes me feel good that I feel like I'm on the right track. Maybe not at the Olympic level,
Right.
but at the level to get you, Tyler, where you wanted to go. That would be part A of the advice. Part B would be, like I mentioned before, everything you want to do, try and get it out of the way before life happens, because there's, yeah, I don't even know, I don't want to even want to say it out loud, but get all your stuff out of the way. um and if you, like I said, if you think there's other things that you want to do it before um you get into a situation where you might not be able to anymore. Not so much like
Mhm.
job or relationships or things like that, but like for me, one of the things on my list is to represent the United States at some type of competition. Well, powerlifting, I think it's out of the question now after summer of 20.
So you tore your
Tearing my
tricep, right?
Well, I tore my pec in the
Heck.
garage, which was horrible. So I'm too afraid to move forward now because I wasn't high level back then, and to risk that trauma again with having to change diapers and little kids, it's not as important anymore.
Mhm.
Triathlon, I need to lose a lot of weight and get hauling, at least for my age group. But otherwise, education wise, I think I've accomplished everything. I mean, I have a doctorate. I mean, I could get another one, I guess, but there's really no, that wouldn't be as fruitful.
Right.
um, but really try and pursue what you want. One of the things, and I talk to my wife about it all the time, would be how cool would it be to coach full time? And it's not a very unless you stay at the same place for a long time, to bounce around every 3 or 4 years with little people makes it a little bit more difficult.
Mhm.
But that's something like, if I can't do it at a college, we're going to try and find a house with a lot of land. I'm just going to build my own circle. Build it and they will come, and hopefully you get people that want to come train at your barn or whatever.
Mhm.
But you just gotta do it. Like, over my left shoulder here, the Highland Games female athlete, Adrienne Blue Wilson, when I interviewed her, she basically said the same thing. She's like, you pursue it, because one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be 40, and you're going to realize, oh man, like, you just can't do it anymore.
Yep.
I don't want it to sound sad, Tyler, because I feel like that's how it's coming off, as like, woe is me type of thing. But I think once you get to a certain point, it's difficult to, you can't turn back time,
Yeah.
and you're not going to be 26 forever. And I would stream your little heart out and do this stuff like every day. Like, I try, but like I said, I click record, and maybe 5 people listen. But one day somebody might listen who's like, wow, like, Tyler knows what he's talking about. I'm gonna hire him to do something at my company, and off you go. And don't forget about me when you have 8 figures in the bank or whatever. But that's part of why I do it too. Is you create content for people to consume, hopefully, and it would be cool to do it like on a professional level, I guess, of being a speaker and going around and giving talks and things. But
Yeah.
yeah, now I've rambled on. Sorry.
Oh, no, no, it's okay. That's kind of what I want this to be about. I don't want this to be, strictly just an interview. I want this to be a conversation. Because I think that's the most genuine form of expressing somebody, expressing yourself in a way that is I think it's easier to digest
Sure.
as a listener, and B,
Hmm.
I think that it creates more of a genuine interaction compared to me just be
Hmm.
like question and you be like answer, then me be like, okay, well now question again.
Right.
So
Well, what do you want to do? So you're in your mid 20s. Like, I remember when I was in my mid 20s, what I was doing and what I wanted to do. So I kind of have an idea of what you're doing now. But what do you want to do? Like, where do you want to
so
be?
so I have a couple of things that I want to do. One of the things is, I would love to make this series, or even just streaming in general, more of a permanent, you know I don't want to say full time thing, because I understand that that's kind of like the main end goal for a lot of people. But I want this to be
Mhm.
something that people can kind of just come to, either to get away from the world, or to learn something new, or
Mhm.
laugh, whatever. And that's kind of what I want to do with this. But outside of this, um, I would love to figure out the best way to change my work schedule to allow for me to coach. I think that would be phenomenal. I think even
Sure.
if I was to retire, I basically I want to retire as early as I can so that I can have an opportunity to coach at any level.
Mhm.
So I think that that's something that I really like to do. Um, I would also, I would love to get a house before I'm 30. I think that's a goal of mine, is
Mhm.
to find a house before I'm 30, and
Mhm.
to really knock down a lot of my student loans. But
Mhm.
whenever I go to an interview, which I haven't done in a while, but whenever I do like a job interview, my favorite thing is when people ask me where I see myself in 20 years or in 10 years, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this, but other way,
Right.
like, I want your spot. Like, I want to be where you're
Right.
sitting. Because I
Right.
think that that's true for me. Is I want to work hard so that way I can basically, there's a lot of things in my life where I came to an idea of, I love to prove people wrong. I love to
Mhm.
kind of break the stereotype that people have of me, whether that be, you know, as I grew up, did I listen a lot? No, I was a kid. But I
Mhm.
also learned that, I started taking my ADHD medication a couple weeks ago. I stopped doing that
Mhm.
after sophomore year of college, which may explain a couple of distances that we might not have been able to hit the mark on. But
Oh boy.
I'm learning more about myself, and I basically,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I think even now, like doing conversations like this and this series
Mhm.
of streams, it makes me want to, um, pick up like a textbook and learn more about just psychology in general. Like pick up
Mhm.
like a psych book and maybe go to a community college and take a couple psych courses to
Mhm.
get that because I think that's super interesting. Do I want to be a therapist? No, I don't. I don't want to
Right.
go down that route. But I have a lot of things that I think I want to try and do, and I have a limited amount of time. I still, I want to, help people who need it, and I want to,
Mhm.
figure out I want to get my finances more stable, and I want
Mhm.
to prepare myself for life after where I'm at. I
Mhm.
literally have a meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning to talk about with my financial guy if I
Mhm.
think a 401k is better than a Roth IRA and which one I think I
Sure.
should put more money in. Like I just want to I want to build myself to a place where I can live comfortably and not worry about a lot. That's my
Mhm.
main goal. And I want to be happy while I do it.
I mean, I think most people would probably agree with that and parallel that. They want to find something that they're really interested in doing and
Mhm.
be able to turn it into a career. But since you're talking to me now, I have some homework for you
Okay.
since what you shared. So, and for anybody else who's watching and listening out there right now. So you want to coach and you want to take a couple of psych courses or maybe read a book or something. So what I would encourage you to do, let's see, it's Wednesday. So by next Wednesday, so a week from now, is to reach out to three coaches and ask if they would be interested in having somebody else come and help them. Right.
Yeah.
If you really want to, so indoor seasons are kind of wrapping up now. So they're especially like at the high school level. So beginning of March is when teams start transitioning to outdoor track. So this probably is a good time to reach out and say, hey, listen, like I know you're real busy right now, you're getting into your championship season, but
Mhm.
I'm really interested in becoming a coach or learning more about it. Can I come, watch or whatever? I can almost guarantee maybe 90% that somebody's going to reach out and say absolutely because if you ask to volunteer, they'll probably be like, of course, especially at a high school where there might not be as much money.
Right.
um, but then that might open a door for something else later on down the road where if the coach decides that he doesn't want to do it or she doesn't want to do it next year, then you already know the kids, you're familiar with the system, and you kind of like slide into the position. Or there's a lot of colleges in your area also that might be interested in taking somebody on. And I think like I encouraged you, I know I encourage almost everybody. I think go to if you're going to go to grad school, be a GA and have somebody else pay for it.
Mhm.
So you're still within that age where you competed really well as a collegiate athlete. So you still have that going for you. Like nobody will be able to take those distances away.
Mhm.
And you reach out and say, hey, listen, like this is what I'm interested in doing. Um, maybe if you don't want to take it to that level of being a graduate assistant, but if they're going to pay for it, for example, like I don't know, University of Albany, for example,
Mhm.
is kind of close to where you are. They have a ton of grad programs and things that you're interested in pursuing. Hey, coach, do you offer any graduate assistantships for coaching? I was a thrower. This is how far I threw. I'm really interested, blah, 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 blah. And then you just get the ball rolling and
Mhm.
you never know. Like they might say no, but then they might say, whoa, yeah, sure. We need a graduate assistant. Maybe you don't help with throwing necessarily, but we need someone to help with recruiting or with budgets or doing whatever. So that's your homework.
Okay.
You're gonna contact at least three people, and you're gonna report back to us as social media community, and see what happens.
Okay.
I'm telling somebody's gonna say yes. if you lived closer, you could come out to Alfred, um,
It's kind
and
of
you
a
could come
trek, but
watch those practice.
I'll maybe a
It
meet
is
or
well,
two I could stop by at.
it's a trek. It's a trek for me too. But like,
Right.
when you're interested in doing something and there's like an opportunity, like part of it too for me with the coaching portion also is I want to teach at a college. So like my ultimate number one goal is to teach and coach at the same place. So the coaching part is relatively easier. Did you have previous experience? Blah blah blah. Like you look at these job descriptions. It's the teaching part is like, well, like that's really hard. But that's like if I could ever nail that down, that would be like the coolest thing ever to teach in a school of ed and research and do all these things.
Yeah.
And I still reach out now, like, and it's kind of sobering sometimes where I think I've accomplished a couple of things, but it still doesn't meet somebody else's like standards or expectations. And you just kind of like, I don't want to say get over it, but what's the right word? You wrap your mind around it. Like, okay, I applied for X jobs. I didn't get any callbacks. I'm just going to continue applying until you get that one. And then you never know like who you talk to or what your circle is. So if you're interested in coaching, so like, because I'm bugging you about it, if you tell me, hey coach, it's these people I'm interested in, I send an email and say, hey, listen, I coach Tyler. He's a great kid, great work ethic, has this major or graduated with this degree rather. He's interested in working, I understand, and then that's how it works. Sometimes, my mom used to tell me that all the time, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's how, and I think to a certain extent it is. Like I wouldn't be coaching at Alfred State if Tim Jajos wasn't the throwing coach or wasn't the head coach there, because we coached together at NAS. And I asked him if I could use his facility to coach high school kids, and it turned into, hey, do you want to coach? And hey, we'll pay you, and hey, you don't have to come every day. And
sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'd still want to try and figure out how to do it full time.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's helpful to you or the others that are, watching and listening along, but just do it. Like it's an email. Like they don't, even if they don't read it, like I can't tell you how many jobs I've applied to where I don't even get that auto-generated, hey, thank you. It was a really difficult decision for us, but we're moving forward. You didn't look at my application. Like, don't even send me that. It's almost better to not get anything at all sometimes.
Right.
Like you didn't look at my package that I sent in. Like, give me a break.
Don't even bother coming back to me, please.
Well, I've had that. I've had that too, though. There's a college that will remain nameless that I've applied to 7 times. And
oh, wow.
And it was 7 consecutive semesters for teaching job in the School of Education at the university. And finally, the last time that I applied, they said, listen, like, don't anymore. And I knew it wasn't auto-generated because it actually came from somebody.
Okay.
It didn't have all that like, red tape at the bottom and blah, blah, blah. Like it actually came from, I guess the associate dean of that department, and basically thanks, but no thanks, like don't anymore. So I won't, but if I never applied, then I never would have been told not to anymore. That's so embarrassing, I guess, but
it's interesting. I mean, everything's everything's a learning experience. And that's kind of what I think about too, is, I mean, because you said that, I pulled up an Excel sheet that I made after I graduated college for job applications.
Yeah.
I applied to 38 jobs within a week.
Yep.
And
you were pushing paper.
I was pushing paper.
You were pushing paper like Dr. Stoddard says, yeah.
And I did my, was June of 2020 or 2018. I was like, I lined up interviews all in 1 week. I had
Mhm.
7 interviews, and I had 3 it
That's
wasn't
good.
even a full week, it was 7 days, or it was 3
Mhm.
days. 7 I had 7 interviews in 3 days. So I was going all over the place. I was couch surfing
Mhm.
at my friend's house, and I got up at I left my house, because the first interview, was at an insurance agency because I wanted to do sales, right?
Mhm.
I do not want to do sales anymore, but I did in 2018. So
Yes, I remember this. Yes.
so my first interview was at an insurance agency, sell insurance, and it was
Mhm.
at, oh god, 8:30 in the morning.
Mhm.
So I left my house at 4 in the morning.
Mhm.
I couldn't sleep the night before because I was so nervous. So I got about 3 hours of sleep, got in the car, ended up taking a nap at a rest stop, and
I've
got
done that before.
yeah, well, a quick 10-minute power nap. I got back in the car. I changed into my suit at a gas station when I finally made it back to Rochester, and it was an interesting time for sure. Guys, we lost him again. Oh my god. Oh man. Can I be honest with you guys? I didn't actually expect this conversation to go this long. Typically, I make these 30 to 45 minutes, but I'm really enjoying my time. I love talking to Doctor Infurna. He's a great guy. I believe I am gonna wrap up in a couple minutes here, though. I don't want to go too long, and he has to get up like 6 a.m. That's wild. That's wild. But yeah, is this is a conversation with somebody who I know personally, who I haven't talked with in a while, but he started it all for me. You know what I mean? In terms of critical thinking like this. He started my thought process on a lot of things, and I give him a lot of credit. Um, Helped me a lot. I don't know if he's gonna make it back. Let's see. But I mean, guys, I appreciate you guys hanging out and learning more, even just about like. It's funny because him and I have a lot of history, obviously. So we talk a lot about what life was like back in the day with, with track and with everything. And I think it's absolutely hilarious. I love I I love reminiscing on times on all of it. I also meant to take a shower. Look at my. It looks like my hair got like attached to my skull. Welcome back.
Tyler, this is not.
It's all right.
I hope it doesn't happen often with other. Well, I haven't seen it actually happen with other guests, so
Yeah, this is. I really don't know what. But I
it's
mean,
my user error, I guess. I don't know, but so you're sleeping at the rest stop
right. So I'm sleeping at
is
the
where
rest
you
stop,
were.
and
Yes.
I get to my first interview on time. Fantastic. I get there and I go through. I called it my. I just called it an interview circuit because I had so many. I literally didn't have time
Mhm.
to eat breakfast. I just left. So first interview came, and that went great. And I'm not going to go through all of them in general, but basically,
Mhm.
it went from 7 interviews to having follow up interviews to having
Mhm.
uh, phone calls, and I ended up in total within 3 days. I had, I think, 13 to 14 interviews in 3 days.
That's great, though.
It is
I
great.
mean,
It's a,
it's good that you had the opportunity to do that.
right, and I was thinking to myself because I love interviews. I love interviewing, and I love answering
Mhm.
questions. I think that it is the most exciting thing for me sometimes.
Mhm.
So I would leave and I would call my family, and they were like, "How's
Mhm.
it going?" I was like, "Oh my god, great." And they're like, "You're not stressed at all? Like you're not I go, "What am I nervous about? What are they going to do?
Right.
Tell me not to come back? I could care less." I was like, "This is
Yeah, I
fun
know,
for me."
right? Yeah.
So I ended up getting a job at Paychecks, and
Mhm.
I think I got it. I walked in. They typically do like recruiting sessions for like interviews.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, I walked in and I made it through all of the interviews, and the Paychecks interviews were all in one day. They if
Mhm.
you were stepped in the building, you weren't going to leave unless you knew if you did or did not have a job. So, um,
Which is good. Like that, like the waiting part, that's really tough then because I think that's really respectful of them
yeah,
because waiting, like I've waited like 2, 3, 4 weeks before, and it's like ha- you would think that you would know, like if you like spending so much time, like at other places, I don't know. I just think that's great that you had 3 interviews in the same day and that they were able to tell you yes or no. I mean, if it's a no, it's like, oh my gosh, I just wasted a day.
right.
Uh, but
It was but it was my favorite interview moment because I talked to the my who would eventually have been my boss's boss.
Mhm.
Um, and and as I was talking to them, they're like, "What do you look for in a job?" And I was like, "Opportunity to grow." I really want to focus on an ability to improve my standing with the company from when I
Mhm.
walk in the door to when I leave during like at the end of the day. And and we shook hands. We're getting ready to leave. He's like, "Oh, hey, by the way, there's a ton of opportunity with us. With us, sky's the limit."
Mhm.
I don't know how I got the job because when I walked out, I stopped. I dead stopped in front of the door, hand on doorknob, looked over and said, "Keith, don't tell me the sky's the limit when there's footprints on the moon." And then I walked out. I didn't say anything after that. I didn't shake hands. I left.
Mhm.
And I got a call from who would eventually be my boss, and they were like, "Yeah, come on in." I was like, I think that one quote that I found on I don't know why it stuck with me. It was a quote that I found on an image, a
Mhm.
Google search back
Mhm.
in like 2010. And I don't know what made me think of it in the moment, but I turned around and I said it, and it was by far the most entertaining and the easiest answer I could have given somebody.
But but that, like, knowing your personality, like I would feel uncomfortable pulling something like that. Like I don't think I would be able to share something like, I mean, I've shared like wrestling quotes that I've thrown into
Mhm.
like interviews and things, but that went over everyone's heads. But when you're one on one with the boss's boss, that's I don't know, that
Not a
I
lot of
couldn't
people
pull
got
that
there.
off. So no,
But it was super
more power
interesting.
to you.
It was super, and the other job, because I had worked at Paychecks, and then I had what I called my fun job, where I
Mhm.
worked as a tour guide for a brewery tour company, and
I
I
remember that. Oh my gosh.
I got it because we were on the buses, and they didn't have enough people to corral the drunk people that were going to be at senior week. So I told the girl that
Mhm.
I would take care of a whole bus by myself because, who's going to tell me no? And
Right.
I
Mhm.
got kind of drunk, and I bought everybody on the bus a drink, and it cost like $370. Didn't
Mhm.
think about the repercussions. Oh well. But I got off the bus very not sober, and I went over to the girl who owns the company, and I said, "Courtney, if you guys need anything, just let me know. I would love to do more of these. This is great." So she handed me her card, and I woke up the next day to a text message like, "Hey, thanks for reaching out yesterday so quickly. We would love to have you come on. There's a tour coming on this day. Do you want to come and work for us?" And I looked at it and I was like, "Okay." So I got a t-shirt and free drinks out of it. So it was a fun job. I got paid and it was cool. Um, but like and I think this kind of wraps up because I know that I want to kind of end things soon here. I know you got to get up early. So,
Oh
my,
no, no, I'm good. I'm having fun. This is much. I mean, I'd probably sit on the couch and fall asleep on the couch or something and watch the Olympics right now. So this is much more entertaining and pleasurable, I guess.
that's
Well, it is like, we haven't talked since,
we haven't
I don't
talked since
know.
like 20,
It was
like I think a little bit after I got my job at Paychecks. It had to have been like 2018,
you
2019,
you
right?
were you came over for dinner.
Yep.
And we talked about the Highland Games thing, and then we had lunch a couple times at Core Eatery there in Webster.
Yep.
Two and actually three times. Two of the times you were at Paychecks, and then the other time you were
It
at
was at Famous Footwear.
Famous Footwear.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh God.
you've had I'm listening. 13 interviews in a week. I don't even think I've ever had like 13 interviews in my life. Um, I've had a couple of teaching ones, um, but not. I mean, I've never even got that far. Like I don't know if it's good to say that I would like to at some point. I mean, obviously, would like the teaching stuff,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I think but that just goes to show like perseverance and things of just of doing it. Like if there's a like a woe is me mentality or I'm never going to get the job. Like I've applied at colleges that I know they definitely are not going to look at it,
Right.
but you really do never know, like
Yeah.
who looks at it, or if there's a specific keyword that excuse me, that sticks out to them. But I
If
mean, it is, you do put yourself out there, but
if there's one thing that I think if I had to go back, and I did think about this when I was working at Paychecks, I don't know if I told you this, but I was tempted to go back to school for uh the graduate oh god, upper education uh degree. And I was
oh, to work at like to be like res life or something,
yeah,
right?
to like
At a
work for
college or
like
university.
campus
Yes.
activities or whatever. Yeah. So I looked into it and eventually I came to the conclusion that the amount of money that I would be able to make off of that it didn't make sense for me to go back to school and make and lose that much more money. So I ended up not doing it. And I think that that is
Mhm,
something that if I could go back, I think that I would definitely put more thought into it because I think I love things like interviews and resume building, and
mhm,
I love asking answering questions and answering difficult questions, and I I think that that's something that I would have really enjoyed, and I think even now like that's something that I can still do, but I am in a position now where I think financially I would make more where I am now, and I'm still just as happy doing what I do
mhm,
now. um, so I don't think that it would make sense for me to do that. But, when people ask me questions, like for now, my brother, for instance, he was
mhm,
applying to jobs, and so I helped him build a resume, and I sent him
mhm,
my resume as a way for him to kind of like look through and copy and kind of change up a little bit. And
mhm,
I was talking to him. He's like, "How? Like, I don't even know where to look for jobs." I was like, "Oh, don't worry. I
mhm,
literally already texted you 14 applications for jobs that you could apply
mhm,
to." And so I love the search. I call it the hunt. I love the hunt of a job.
mhm,
I think it's fun.
mhm,
I think that I would enjoy it more if I was like because whenever I tend to look for a job is when I am out of a job. So I don't find that much fun in it at that point because
right,
I need it, but
right.
um, when
Well, I think there's
people
this.
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I don't. I cut you off.
Oh no, it's I was just gonna finish up with saying just like it's just something that I am always I love helping people out with that kind of stuff because I think I'm good at it. I think it's something that I'm really decent with.
Well, so if the, so I guess this goes back to like what you mentioned earlier about the psychology and trying, maybe taking courses. There are opportunities where you could get into residence life as like that like track where they do pay for your graduate degree, and I think it's like higher level administration or something like that at the college level. So you would be a resident director and be going to school, and they would be paying you to go to school, and you'd get additional supplementation for being the director of a dorm of like 150 200 students, where they pay for it. So if someone's going to pay for it, that might be something to look into.
Mhm.
Fredonia, I know because I check all the time. They have at least two or three resident director jobs posted um, every semester, and it's I want to say the pay, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about it, so it's like between $30,000 and $40,000 a year to start, but you don't pay for any like living expenses. Like
Right.
I mean, you live in a dorm with 200 kids, and you get a meal stipend, and you don't have to pay for anything else besides like whatever your other expenses would be, and then they pay for your grad work. So
Right.
Buff State has a program like that. I think Maz has something like that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility for you. I mean, you are gosh, so young still. Like you can really do whatever you want. I mean, it is the timeline piece. I think is where sometimes people might get hung up. Where by this age, I'm going to have this, and I'm going to do that. And a couple of years ago, like that was well, a couple of years ago, last week, that was me too. Like I still think about of like I invested all this time and energy in earning this doctorate, and it like hasn't paid dividends yet. I think as far as like
Mhm.
you need that to teach at a college, but then when there aren't college jobs and you kind of meander around a little bit, it makes the end, it just makes it difficult because you don't know where, like how long that takes, like
Right.
it takes 10 years to become an overnight success or whatever. um it's difficult, but I wouldn't put like a timestamp on that for you, especially 25, 26. Like you'd be done in 2 years,
Yeah.
and then if you don't like it, it's somebody else still paid for it. um and but I think you would be good at that. Like you have the personality, you have the demeanor, you have the outgoingness that you would really, I think you would probably excel, and you would enjoy like that college setting,
Mhm.
right? You just have that demeanor about you that I don't think anybody would give you a lot of difficulty if you were their RD. Uh, but then that personality and your ability to communicate with people would lend itself to maybe you're an RD for 2 years, and then you work your way up. Somebody I knew at Fredonia, she did that. She got her education degree, her bachelor's, subbed for a long time, couldn't get a job. This was in 04, 05, 06, where there were no jobs really for teaching around here. Now you can, I mean, it's a lot easier with the climate, but um, she now is like second in command of Res Life at SUNY Fredonia, and she turned getting a master's degree into a career. So once the person above her retires, I'm sure she'll slide into that spot, and she'll be the vice president for student affairs. Like,
Mhm.
and she's my age, so it's like, wow, like you're going to be the vice president of this department in a couple of years. And it's like,
Yeah. I
where did I go wrong type of thing. But
I guess at the end of the day, it's always something that I think I'll look into. I think it's something that I revisit a lot, and it's something that I'm interested in. And the best part too is I think that this is something that is it's something that I can see myself, like you said, I can really see myself enjoying it.
Mhm.
And even now, like the things that I want to do, um, I tend to prioritize it in terms of like how often do I think about me wanting to do this thing.
Mhm.
And with going back to grad school for upper education, it's something that pops into my head maybe once every couple of years, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, but maybe one day I'll actually pull a trigger and do it. I don't know. Just like rip it, spend a couple hundred, spend some time and
Well,
figure it out.
I mean, but if I mean, I think the opportunity would be there that it wouldn't be as much of a financial investment.
Yeah.
Like, I, I mean, I don't know. Like, I have a couple kids at Alfred State. They're going to be graduating this year, and they're interested in coaching, and they have a very unique degree. And I'm like, just reach out to the colleges. Like, the worst that they could say is, no, we don't have time for you. But
Right.
the stipend doesn't necessarily come from the athletic department. If there's something in the degree or in the department of engineering or whatever, um, something is better um, than nothing at all. If it's
Yeah.
like, I think NAS's is like, I don't know, they pay for 4 classes a year, which, okay, so you just leg it out. So rather than graduate in 2 years with a master's degree, you graduate in three, right? You take,
Right.
it's 12 courses, 36 credit hours. Like, there's no rush at that age, I don't think.
Right.
But I would pursue it. Why not, Tyler? Like,
Right. Right.
that's me. Well, I think, but that's a lot of my mom and my dad speaking,
Yeah.
because that's something they'll never be able to take that away. Like, if I'm a horrible writer and I'm a horrible this and I'm a horrible that, I was able to get it right once and convince people that I know what I'm talking about with my doctorate. And then you never take that away from somebody. So regardless of other like life circumstances, like the degree is always there. Like,
Right.
so it's not, it might not, with the financial crisis now that people are experiencing, and the student loans, and wherever you stand on that, like, you do, I mean, it is a sacrifice. And I don't know, I guess that's one of the things, like we talked about earlier, you weigh it out, like, if it's
Right.
something that's that important to you, um
And
you go for it. But
yeah, I think that is something that I think that a lot of people need to resonate with themselves is,
Mhm.
taking that risk and jumping, through the hoop and getting it done.
Mhm.
But I mean, coach, I would love to chat longer. However, I am getting tired. So
You're
I
bored, I know,
no,
and
it's
I
not
get
like
it, I
that.
get it,
I
I
just,
get it. Oh,
I
man.
need at least a solid 8 to 9 hours, and then I can go to work in the morning. But, yeah, I mean, so where can people find you if are you, with your podcast and everything? Is the Forza Athletics?
Yeah, so I mean, that's really something I guess we didn't talk about. So it is like, the thing that does bring me the most joy, I guess, when it comes to that, is working with high school, collegiate, or post collegiate athletes. So I have a club called Forts Athletics, where it's specific through USA Track and Field. We're a registered club in the Niagara region, where I spent time teaching kids predominantly how to throw the weight and the hammer, occasionally javelin, and if they want to throw shot put and discus. And that's at Forts Athletics on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram. Um, but then also, something that I've talked about outside the box, or comfort zone rather, is this holistic coaching piece that I've started working with post collegiate athletes with. in regards to not only emphasizing the physical prep to throw at a high level, but the between ears parts where there's an expectation, or I think I tried doing it as best as I could, is preparing everyone mentally for the rigors of competition and strategy and conversations along those lines. And what's interesting about that with this whole holistic coaching piece is I had a coaching session with a post collegiate thrower. My original intent was that I anticipated that there would be more like high school and collegiate athletes that would be interested in learning more about harnessing the mental prowess to throw farther. And what I'm working with is a bunch of post collegiate throwers who are like national record holders that are from all over the world. And it's really interesting because they already are at a specific level where they hit the Olympic standard for the hammer, discus, shot put, what have you. And they're the ones that are most interested in learning more about this stuff, which I think is really cool. But yeah, so Forts Athletics across the board, Forts Athletics Life and Coaching Podcast. I actually have some that I think I'm gonna parcel out to you that you can make look nice, maybe for a little stipend on your end. Where typically it's rambling in my car when I'm on my way to school, or interviewing, former throwers or coaches and things like that, and really digging into not only how they pursued those careers, but when they realized that it was something that they really wanted to move forward with, and that they were going to, pursue those goals and dreams too. So reach out, send a DM, if you will. And I love engaging with people about that stuff, because at least coaching, I feel like I have an idea of what I'm doing. Like there's still a lot to learn. But if I can help somebody with, something, that makes for a good day. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, I will definitely be in touch with my homework assignment, and we can chat soon.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll run this back in a couple weeks. Maybe not as long, and I'll figure out better. I don't know. The kids are all asleep. Like there's nobody online right now. Like usually there's like 4 devices going at the same time, which sounds horrible. Like my wife and I, we're not bad parents, I don't think.
iPad kids and everything in between.
Well, like usually there's like 4 devices going at the same time.
Yeah.
And there's nothing going right now, and it's still cut out. But well, for the people that watched and listened, I hope that they were able to take something from this, whether it's anything about, pursuing goals or dreams or like life stuff. Like, I think it's really interesting. Like I'm kind of afraid to hit the live button, and it kind of makes me nervous because I don't know what's gonna be on the other end, I guess.
Yeah.
But I might have to try it now, because I'm intrigued, because I don't know who would sit in on like a coaching session, or to listen to me ramble live, as opposed to after the fact. So
Yeah, I mean that's something that I think a lot of people should try and doing. I love live streaming. I even if it's just talking and chatting with people, and I've learned a lot about it too. So if you need anything, just let me know. I can help you with getting that live button going.
Well, we could do live. You could go live with somebody, right? Like
Yeah.
on Instagram. Like we could. So maybe we'll do something in the next week or two.
Yeah. You just let me know.
I used to do it. We used to do it for practice, and I never thought anything of it. I don't know if you remember. Like we would hit record on Instagram, or not record, but Instagram live. I mean, it was Lewis's phone, so maybe that's why I wasn't as afraid. But
yeah, Lewis's followers are.
Well, when it's his phone, right? Then it's like, okay, it's not mine.
You don't know the audience, right? Because it's not people that you engage with normally.
No, I did it when I was at. Sorry, I know you told me we got to go, but another side story. Periscope through Twitter.
Oh God, Periscope.
I was finishing my doc work, and I thought I was going to pursue this amazing career, and there were these people that I followed on social media that had these challenges where you would register, and they were free, and like you Periscope, and you go live once a week, and you record it and you share it and things. And I didn't even think anything of it. We get some interesting characters that would like log in and ask questions and things, but it wasn't. I couldn't see them, right? Because it was just you. You're just talking like this.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just it's so I don't know. It's so fascinating. Like you had to wait weeks before to get like camera footage back, and now it's instantaneous. And I'm old enough to say that because I lived through it. You maybe you don't remember having to record something and then like
I remember
transpose it from your camcorder to burn it onto a DVD because you couldn't do it to a computer.
So at that point I didn't, but I remember whenever my mom would take pictures, you know, I would cannot touch the roll. Do not touch the film,
Yeah.
or terrible things are gonna happen. I don't. She used to also tell me that that my arm would rip off if I put it out too far out the window when she was driving. Which it worked, but didn't.
Yeah, it worked, right?
But anyway, Coach, I will definitely be in touch with you soon. And if you want to keep doing this, let's keep doing it, man. I'm all about it.
Yeah, you know what? This might be interesting. This might be a way. I mean, I don't not to bore your followers, but I wouldn't mind doing this like once a month or once every couple of weeks. I think it's cool. Now,
yeah,
gotta get the first one out of my system. Get all these wrestling magazines. They make for interesting conversation.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about your wrestling history. That's something we could talk about another one.
I didn't. That maybe that's for the next one. There's a wrestling injury that not too many people know about. But yeah, there's Hulk Hogan over here that I met. The Ultimate Warrior magazines on this side. I got more over here. It's a kid's den now. There's toys all over the place. But I wrote my dissertation down here. Man. Yeah, but anyway. All right, Tyler. Well, thanks, man. Like this was really fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, not a problem, Coach. I'll
being patient.
Not a problem. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Okay.
All right. Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye.
Oh man, what a conversation. I love talking to that man. He could talk to me about anything, and we would talk for hours. Even now, this conversation went on for an hour, like what, an hour and 45 minutes. It is so fun chatting with him. But chat, that's gonna do it for me. I gotta go to bed. I'm tired. But I'll catch you guys on Friday. What am I gonna do? Who knows, man? Lost Ark, maybe like, I don't know, Melee. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out, chat.